What's going on, everyone? My name is Patrick.
And I'm Basha.
And welcome to Freshman Finance, the YouTube channel teaching you to harness the power of money so you can live your best life no matter where you are on your financial journey.
That's right. And today it's a big one. We're talking relationships and the money chat. We're going to tell you guys our story, why we started talking about money, and what kind of benefits happened once we laid all of our cards out on the table. We'll also give you guys some tips about how to start that conversation with your significant other.
Let's go!
Do you remember exactly what it was that kind of got us to that point where we had our first relationship money talk?
Yes, I remember it was a defining moment. We weren't living together for that long, a few months at that point, and we were going to my close friend's wedding, and we stopped at the ATM to get a gift for them. We were going to give them £100 each, and I hadn't budgeted that well. Didn't have that money actually in my bank account. So long story short, I had to actually borrow that £100 from Basha, which, as I said, very embarrassing.
It also worried me a little because he had known about this wedding well over a year, and why wasn't he trying to budget and save the money? All in all, the wedding was gorgeous. We had an absolutely wonderful night, but I knew that at some point I was gonna have to bring this up again and ask him, what was he up with his savings?
What made you nervous about asking that question and having that discussion?
A number of things. I really didn't know how to ask, one, and two, I actually didn't know how you would react. It could have gone in any direction. You could have gotten angry at me and just shut me down, could have been embarrassed and walked away, and ultimately I didn't want to create a negative situation. I mulled it over my head for a couple of weeks, and I finally built up the courage to ask, and I remembered exactly we were having dinner, and I just kind of said, I was like, do you want to talk about this, about our finances, what is going on?
And it was difficult to have that conversation from the start. It really was, but it was just super important, and it's really had a positive impact on our relationship.
Exactly. I think it's for the first time when we laid all of our cards out on the table that we started talking about what we wanted to achieve together as a couple.
And when we found out that was financial independence, that was the goal, it was a lot easier to sort of get a plan together to tackle my debt and to really create an investment strategy that would help us get there.
Now that we have this goal, it kind of lit a fire up our asses, and so we sat down together. I helped Patrick put together a plan about how to repay his debt, and ultimately we started that journey about learning about savings, investing, and how to make money work for us.
And now we're going to pass that all on to you guys.
Why do you think we have such a different relationship with money? Do you think it was our upbringing, we had a different education, or maybe it was something else?
I think it was definitely a mix of both. Personally, I never really had any sort of formal financial education within the school system, nothing that I can even remember.
No, neither did I.
And I think also it's important to understand that people have their own money origin story. It's very uncommon for two people from two completely different places in the world or wherever you come from to have the exact same view and outlook on money itself. The irony of it was my dad was a financial planner, so he did his best to try and teach us those lessons in the household. I just think I was too young to care or didn't really value it or think it was that important.
My background is fundamentally different, and I think it starts from the fact that my parents had immigrated to Canada, so they were already at a bit of a disadvantage. Growing up, I wouldn't say we were poor, but I also wouldn't say that we lived in abundance. So my parents taught us from an early age to budget and be strategic with money. We had to really plan for things. And also they were super open about money. It was so normal at the dinner table to have a conversation like, hey, the credit card bills are due, or have you put money into your pension account this month? It almost reinforced that idea that we do need to talk about money, and it is something that we need to be okay with.
Can you remember any sort of lessons or maybe some distinct money habits that you learned throughout that sort of childhood or in your home?
So the one that really has been ingrained in my mind and sticks out to me is when my parents made me go get a job. I really wanted these pair of 7 jeans from Jean Machine, and they were something like $100, and both my parents were like, absolutely not. And they said if I wanted them, I had to earn them. So I went out and got myself a super glamorous job at a movie theater. I was the girl that when you finish watching the movie sweeps the floor of the popcorn. It took me a whole month of part-time hours to get that paycheck. And I never ended up buying those jeans because it kind of taught me money isn't that easy to come by and you gotta work for it.
Basically teaching you the value of a dollar.
Yeah.
One or two stories that stick out to me, always instilled in me, was to pay yourself first. That was a big one. And I distinctly remember an exercise about my dad trying to teach us about compound interest, and actually showed my brother, who was a smoker at the time, if he didn't spend 10 bucks a day on cigarettes, what that could do 45 years in the future for him if he just invested in that every day, $10 a day. And it ended up being over $1 million.
You bring up another great point, compound interest. Guys, we're gonna do a separate video for you on that because it is so important to understand how that could work for you.
The key to building wealth.
It is.
Well, now that you guys understand a little bit more about our money origin story and the thing that triggered us to have the money talk, what we're gonna do now is leave you with a few actionable tips to help you get that conversation going in your own relationship. One quick tip is maybe that your situation is similar to something you've heard in a podcast or read in a book. This is a great way to kind of gently introduce the topic to your partner and get the ball rolling.
One way to maybe start the conversation is you might have a friend or someone you know that is going through a similar situation. You could bring up their situation with a significant other and relate it back to your relationships to kind of get the ball rolling. It's easier for someone to opine on another person's situation versus their own. And the first time you have this conversation, you might get shut down by your partner, and that's okay. Just give them the space and time that they need. And after a while, probe them gently again and try and start the conversation one more time.
Another key tip is do your best to understand the other person's money origin story. If you don't know how money has played a part in their lives, it's unfair to demand that they have the same outlook on money that you do. Once you understand their relationship with money, their views, and how they were raised, it's a lot easier to begin that money conversation.
Make it crystal clear to your partner why it's important for you to have this conversation. Tell them that it's about aligning your goals together and getting on the right path to build a really strong future as a unit. Try not to be negative, make sure that you're not judging them, and definitely make sure that you are not sounding like you're trying to bring them down.
And as with everything, practice does make perfect. The more you can disarm the conversation about money and make it a regular day topic, as common as what's for dinner, it'll make it a lot easier to continue having that conversation in the future. It's kind of like sex. It's a bit awkward at first, but hopefully over time with a bit of practice, you're likely to get a lot better. That's all for now, ladies and gentlemen, and please do share your stories with us. We hope that our story has inspired you guys to have the relationship talk.
As always, thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to leave your comments below. Share some of your tips about how you started the conversation with your significant other. As always, see you guys in the next one.
Ciao.
Bye.